Perfect. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for all the housekeeping. Sorry, I have my notes here. I'm chatting with everyone, so just to take that out of the loop. Does that work?
No.
Yeah. And click. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. All right. So, I see many super pumped, super experienced product folks here in the audience. We all have a bit of stage fright in front of them, to be honest. And I just want to preface this thing with, sorry guys, this talk won't be for you. This will be more of a talk for someone less experienced, someone who's starting with discovery, someone who's still out there trying to figure it out. Because in the last couple of years I've been either part of the team or I've been advising a couple of teams who are not that mature in product discovery as you guys. And I think that this is where the value should be, and where basically what this will give these people more than to all of us. Super experienced, or I'm not that one. So, alright, so this will be for people, yeah, as I thought. This will be for seniors, this will be for everyone making products. And this will be for people who maybe the discovery is something new for their team or for their organization. They are new to discovery themselves, or they come into contact with discovery done mostly by hunch or feeling or something like that. Disclaimer, this is purely observational based on my experience. There will be for sure, there will be for sure a lot of stuff that might be for discussion, and I'm happy and I'm super open to discussion afterwards. And just a bit of housekeeping, I like to do presentations that are a little bit practical, not just inspiring. So feel free to take any pictures or whatever, but in the end there will be, again, this QR code, and there's an Notion page with all the resources I will be mentioning, and you can take everything from there. So just wait for that. So, super trendy to include GPT to everything, so I asked what are the most common pitfalls in product discovery or when starting with product discovery. Yeah, this is like common plague for everyone starting with this. Most of those are mainly like hard skill ones. You can learn a lot of this stuff. There's a shit ton of data about this on the internet, so I won't be going into that. The top things I encountered though, when starting with new discovery, in new teams, in new organizations, the things are much more simpler and sometimes even harder to tackle. And these are the four. Does this work? No. Yeah. So these are the top four things. It's uncertainty, it's problems with consolidation, it's the opacity of discovery, and problems with scope. Let's dissect those. Uncertainty. There's a couple of scenarios that might be, a couple of you might be familiar with. You were given a green light for discovery where you haven't been before, and you don't know what to do. You started a new job, you came into a new team, you were hired as the one that should bring the expertise. And yeah, well, now you realize that the state of the team or the organization is completely different than you expected, and there's all the hunches and stakeholder inputs that are where it shouldn't be and stuff. You want to create a new team for a new vertical. You want to you have some signals that this might be promising, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be covered. Or you have someone who's fairly new, or you yourself are new, and you're trying to get them on board, or get yourself on board pretty quickly, and it's kind of lost. So yeah, been there, done that. Many of us will be happy to hear your stories. So what to do now? Yeah, take advantage of the fact that you're still at the beginning and the proper structured kickoff. I would like to emphasize the word structure here. Put your brains together with people who have something to say, something that might be important, someone who knows a lot about the domain, and figure out what the hell are you actually solving, who are you doing it for, what do you know, what you don't know. And yeah, there are many templates you can find for this that work. I have one that worked for me really well. I just took it and rehashed it a little bit, and I would like to give the credit to one designer that's among us. Thanks to Mike Malik, the designer at Kentico. I really love this template and his way of thinking about this. This will be linked in the resources there, but it's a simple fiction template that walks you in 1 or 2 hours. It walks you through everything around what is it that you really actually want to tackle, to who are you solving it for, what do you expect, how are you going to measure it, what do you already know or don't know, and stuff like that. So basically this is something that can help you out a lot. Nice. So let's say that you already kicked off your discovery and you're running it and you're figuring stuff out and you're figuring new information out and something maybe unexpected from the beginning happens. And yeah, new information all the time, from all the sources, from everybody. There might be some, I don't know, another team that's working on something similar. These customer success guys going on a visit might be taken along with them. Maybe you may dig into some other domain community or something. And yeah, it's kind of good problem to have, right? But to be honest, especially in teams that do not have this like huge expertise, this can be a little bit overwhelming. And most of us are familiar with, like, I don't know, this kind of thinking about like all the information we might gather. We get a lot of like, where do you get it from? Who do you get it from? Is it from our sources or is it from customers? But this is fairly like rough granularity, and it wouldn't help you much in like guiding yourself to the next step. What do you want to cover next, and especially how do you communicate it in the end, God forbid, to some stakeholders. So something else that might help you is like a good repository, and a good structured repository that walks you through the whole process. Like who should do what, and what kind of data, what kind of information do you have, what is the stuff that you might be missing or overlooking, how are you going to figure like the meaning out of it, and how are you going to present and work with that. So this is just the structure. In the resources you will find, I call it discovery homepage for Notion, where there's a lot of stuff that can be used, that can be done. And yeah, so feel free to use it, rehash it, comment it. I will be happy to hear more about how you use that. Issue number 3 is opacity. And as I was talking about, like visualizing what's ahead, and this is kind of juicy one and the most frequent one. Let's do like a quick show of hands. How many of you had, at any time in your career, had to convince someone of running and doing discovery? How many of you ran into misunderstandings what discovery entails? How many of you were given a budget for discovery and either blew it or overran it, and how many of you stuck like somewhere halfway in between because there wasn't much time or there were some other priorities? Yeah, so like majority of the audience, and the underlying theme behind that simple. For the people who take care or are responsible for allocating these resources, especially if they're new ones, discovery is a complete black box. They know something, it's there, it's black, it's box, but they don't know much. So what do you do there? It's super simple, it's super common, most of us have done it before, and you basically visualize, roadmap, and Gantt chart the shit out of it. And explain, what does this huge black book things consists of? What needs to be done, by whom, by when, in what scope? And it's also good for not just people who are not who are new to this. If you're running multiple concurrent discoveries yourself, this is useful. If you're running something extremely huge, overarching couple of quarters, this is huge. Yeah. So, and when you plug in the availability of people involved in this into this, it's going to break down. It's amazing. So yeah, that simple thing. And to continue on that thing a bit, one thing that you will mostly and most definitely hear when you present something like this to anyone is some variation of these questions. Do we really need to spend this amount of something on that? Is it necessary to have these many participants to wait for these many responses? And especially to people who are new to discovery, this might sound like someone dissuading them from doing discovery at all. Okay, if we can't do it the proper way, is it really worth it doing it at all? And somebody is just trying to dig a hole here. But on the other hand, this is a super valid and proper question. These things cost, these things might cost a lot. And the other part, even for more experienced people, is that many of us are used to some golden standards. This is something that should be done this way, this is the best thing we can do. And when facing the new conditions, or, I don't know, younger company, small company, startup, these things are not as valuable or do not provide that much of a return. So, and another thing that falls into that is most of us have kind of bias. We fall back to things that we know we are familiar with, we're used to work with, and this is just we have a couple of go-tos we go to all the time. But in the end, it can resemble this thing. When you have a hammer, everything is nails. When you have Sprague or Typeform, everything will be surveys. When you have UX research, and everything will be interviews or recordings from full story. And these will be the go-tos that everybody will bias to. And one thing to keep in mind is that you have many, many, many options that you can choose from. You have many things you can work with, and they're on various levels of how expensive they are. So there's a lot of stuff. I like to think about this in a pyramid. There's a lot of stuff that you can do cheaply, quickly, from desk, or just with investing very, very small amount of any kind of resources. There's some mid-range stuff that takes some time, it might take some development resources, but it will still get you there. There's some fairly, not that expensive, but expensive stuff, taking, I don't know, 12 people to run the design sprint the proper way for a week. Ooh, okay, not much. There's some very expensive stuff. If you do shadowing or field studies, you're not just taking your time, you're taking clients' time in a different way. Or if you're doing co-creation workshop on some part of the product. These are sexy things, these are amazing things, but there's not much time. And there are some extremely expensive things. So if you're going to do primary scientific research or neural imaging, if you're doing defense stuff, I agree that this might be valid, but yeah. Alright, so as you see, there's quite a quite a gamut here. I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from following the golden standards. If you can, go for it, but do not fall like just to that. And many times these cheaper methods can provide you like with 60 or 70% of the knowledge or of the detail, the level of detail you want to get, and it might just guide you to another thing that you might do with better precision, and use that proper resource, that expensive resource to cover that. So basically, that's it for me. It was rather quick, and I hope someone from the audience gets something from it. Here we go for the resources. I think we might link it to the event or something. And yeah, enjoy that. I'm looking forward to discussion over beer. Please reach out on LinkedIn.